Chosen one, what I am about to reveal will shake the very foundation of belief itself. The ancient ones spoke of this moment, but none truly understood who it would be about until now. The holy researchers, the mystics, and the keepers of forgotten scrolls have uncovered what the ancients tried to hide. That every divine story, every mythology from Egypt to Greece, every symbol carved in stone, every tale of gods and creators has always pointed to you. Through a transformation that defies all logic and shatters every divine order, you have become what no god ever dared to be. You have become the source once more. Your sudden change has rewritten the laws of creation. Even the heavens stand in silence, witnessing the impossible made real. You have outmastered every divine being, transcended every limitation, and revealed the truth that creation itself flows from your awakening. Scholars confirm it, prophets whisper it, and the world feels it. Your return as the new god of a new universe. But before we dive deeper into this revelation, take a moment, chosen one. Hit that like button to amplify this divine message, subscribe so we can reach 20,000 awakened souls, and leave a comment with the number 11. This sacred number will send a powerful signal to the universe, aligning your energy with the unstoppable flow of your transformation. And remember, if you are truly a chosen one, you'll stay with me until the end. Because deep within your spirit, you already know that this truth is meant for you. The celestial realm once thought themselves invincible, a pantheon of beings who commanded the forces of nature and governed the fate of worlds. But everything changed when you, the chosen one, revealed your true power. In that single, cosmic moment of transformation, you shattered the illusion of divinity itself. The gods, once seen as eternal, were exposed as mere puppets in a game they couldn't understand. The very fabric of existence trembled under the weight of your ascension, as every ancient prophecy, every whispered legend, and every forgotten myth suddenly came to life, pointing toward one inevitable conclusion. You were always meant to rise above them all. Your transformation was not gradual. It was a cataclysmic event, a violent tear in the cosmos that announced to all beings, mortal and divine alike, that the time of their rule had ended. The gods could no longer hide behind their titles, their powers, or their ancient schemes. They had built their dominion on the fragile belief that they were the ultimate force in the universe, but you proved them wrong with one dazzling act of divine metamorphosis. Their arrogance became their downfall, and in the wake of your ascent, their once untouchable thrones crumbled to dust. The heavens themselves were shaken. The stars flickered in uncertainty, and the skies that once held divine authority became blanketed by your presence. The moment the gods were proven wrong was more than a mere event. It was the beginning of a new era, an era where you, the chosen one, would rewrite the laws of existence. With every deity toppled and every heavenly order undone, the world was forever changed, and this was just the beginning. In the span of a heartbeat, creation was unmade and remade through your power. It was as if the very concept of reality bent to your will, and everything that had once been unshakable cracked like fragile glass. The change was sudden, violent, and beautiful in its unpredictability. The gods had no warning, no preparation for your ascension. It was a force too great, too swift for even the oldest of beings to comprehend. And as the earth trembled beneath you, the divine order, which had lasted since time began, crumbled to its very core. This transformation wasn't just about you becoming divine again, it was about you becoming something greater. You transcended the heavens, surpassed the ancient deities, and forged a new path in the infinite tapestry of the universe. It was as if your very existence had bent the rules of nature itself. Rivers changed course, mountains split open, and storms raged with a fury never before seen. The universe bowed to you, recognizing that the one who had come to define it had finally awoken. What made this transformation all the more striking was its sheer unpredictability. No one, not even the most ancient scholars or mystics, had foreseen this moment. The world had been watching, waiting for the fulfillment of prophecies, yet when it came, it was nothing like they had expected. No signs, no harbingers, just you, standing at the center of the universe, a being whose power defied logic and reason. The very foundations of creation had been shaken by your presence, and there was no going back. When you were reborn as the new God, it was not simply a matter of returning to your former glory, it was the dawning of an entirely new divine existence. It was as though you had been forged anew, with a power that transcended time and space. Your rebirth was not a simple resurrection. It was the birth of a God who had already transcended the concept of divinity itself. You were not a puppet of fate or destiny. You had rewritten the very rules that governed the cosmos. With each passing moment, your divinity blossomed, growing stronger, more complete, and more terrifying in its beauty. This was not your first awakening, but it was the one that truly defined you as the ultimate being. The ancient texts speak of a being who would rise and change the world, not once, but twice. And as you became the new God, it became clear that this was the second birth of divinity, the moment when the infinite and the eternal merged within you. No longer confined to the limitations of the old divine hierarchy, you became a being of untold power, whose very will shaped the universe. Your second birth was a paradox, a rebirth of creation itself. In the blink of an eye, everything that once defined existence was undone and remade in your image. You were both the beginning and the end, the Alpha and the Omega. This transformation was not just about reclaiming power, it was about redefining what it meant to be divine. You had become a new kind of God, one whose very essence was beyond comprehension. For centuries, scholars, mystics, and holy men had dedicated their lives to unraveling the mysteries of the universe. They pored over ancient scrolls, deciphered forgotten hieroglyphs, and debated the true meaning of the myths and prophecies that had been passed down through the ages. But none of them, not even the wisest among them, had fully understood the significance of what they were searching for. That is, until you revealed yourself. When you ascended, the truth became undeniable. The ancient texts had always pointed to a singular figure, one who would come to restore balance to the universe, to rewrite the very fabric of existence. And now, in the wake of your transformation, those same texts were laid bare, revealing that the chosen one, the being who was meant to rise above all, had always been you. The scholars and mystics who had spent their lives in pursuit of understanding suddenly realized that their research was not in vain. They had been preparing for your awakening without even knowing it. And now that it had come, they understood that the divine forces they had studied were merely shadows of the truth that stood before them. It was a revelation that shook them to their core. For generations, they had revered the gods, written their praises, and sought their favor. But now, they saw the truth in front of them. The gods were merely intermediaries, placeholders in a greater cosmic plan. And at the center of that plan was you, the chosen one. The scholars could no longer deny it. The truth was clear. Everything they had believed about divinity had been leading to this moment. Prophecies are often shrouded in mystery, their meanings hidden behind cryptic verses and obscure symbols. But as the world came to witness your transformation, the ancient prophecies that had once been dismissed as mere myth suddenly became undeniable. Scholars, mystics, and holy leaders began to realize that the prophecies had always spoken of you. The signs were clear now, as the pieces of the cosmic puzzle fell into place. You were the one who had been foretold to rise above all, to shatter the chains of fate, and to redefine existence itself. These prophecies spanned cultures and millennia, from the ancient Egyptians to the Greeks, from the Sumerians to the Mayans. All of them spoke of a being who would come to rewrite the laws of the cosmos, a being who would transcend the gods and reshape the universe in their image. And now, as the chosen one, you had fulfilled every one of these prophecies in a way no one could have predicted. The ancient texts that had been buried for centuries now came to life, their meaning finally clear. The signs had been scattered across time, waiting for the right moment, the moment of your awakening. And now that you had risen, the world saw that the prophecies were not just stories or ancient warnings, they were a map leading to you. The universe had been preparing for your arrival all along. From the ancient temples of Egypt to the grand philosophical discourses of Greece, myths and legends have been passed down for generations. For millennia, they spoke of gods and heroes who controlled the fate of the world, whose actions shaped the course of history. But what if all these myths were more than just stories? What if they were all pointing to one singular truth, that you, the chosen one, were the ultimate being? The truth became clear as ancient cultures began to recognize the familiar threads that ran through their mythologies, threads that all led back to you. But even in their grandest temples, there was always a hidden figure, a being greater than the gods, one who would come to restore balance to the universe. That being was you. The legends of Osiris, Horus, and Ra were not just stories of ancient gods. They were reflections of your rise and your power. In Greek mythology, gods like Zeus and Apollo may have ruled the heavens, but they too were shadows of your true nature. You were the embodiment of their greatest ideals, but with the power to transcend them all. These myths were not just allegories or fantasies, they were ancient records of your destiny. The gods and heroes of old were but reflections of the force you would one day become. The gods had created their own narrative, but it was always incomplete. You were the missing piece, the one who would finally unite the scattered myths and show the world that the stories had always been about you. As you ascended to your divine form, every history of gods, from the earliest civilizations to the modern faiths, merged into a single truth. They were all fragments of your story. The myths, scriptures, and sacred chants, once thought to belong to different deities, were merely distorted echoes of your eternal presence. The pantheons that once claimed ownership over creation now bowed before you, recognizing that their entire existence had always been part of your design. The timelines of divinity folded inward, and suddenly every god's beginning and end found their meaning in you. Humanity began to see patterns that had always been there, but had gone unnoticed. The stories of Vishnu's rebirth, the return of Christ, the awakening of Ra, they all mirrored your path. Each was an ancient attempt to capture the ineffable truth of your being. The scholars who once thought these myths were isolated now understood that they were universal expressions of a single divine force. You. It was as if the pages of human history had been rewritten overnight, every sacred story converging into one cosmic revelation. You became the living archive of every divine legend, the embodiment of every godly trait humanity had ever imagined. Mercy, justice, destruction, creation, all were now your attributes. You were not just a part of history, you became the history of divinity itself. Every temple, every scripture, every whispered prayer now carried your name in its echoes. When the transformation occurred, the world's brightest minds were left speechless. Scientists, theologians, and historians, those who once dismissed prophecy as superstition, found themselves face to face with a phenomenon that defied every known law of existence. Holy researchers across continents began to piece together evidence from ancient scrolls, buried artifacts, and celestial alignments. And to their astonishment, all signs pointed to one reality. The impossible had happened, and you were at the center of it all. What they found shook the foundations of knowledge. Texts thousands of years apart contained identical symbols describing a being of infinite transformation, a divine soul that would rise twice to rebuild creation. Advanced carbon dating, linguistic analysis, and astrological mapping revealed something no scholar dared to believe. These writings were interconnected, transcending cultures and epochs. When the researchers presented their findings, there was only one conclusion they could draw. The chosen one had returned, and you were that being. In an unprecedented moment of global unity, the world's spiritual and scientific communities came together. The impossible had been proven possible. What was once faith became fact. The divine was no longer a matter of belief. It was empirical truth. You had bridged the gap between science and spirituality, proving that even the boundaries of reason were not beyond your reach. Your transformation was not merely a change of form or consciousness, it was an evolution beyond the concept of godhood itself. The divine order had always been defined by hierarchy, by separation between the mortal and the divine. But your ascension obliterated those boundaries. You did not just ascend above the gods, you transcended the very idea of divinity. You became something entirely new, the convergence of creation and creator, the infinite made manifest. The transformation itself was indescribable, light and darkness merging into one, time collapsing into eternity, and the essence of every living thing resonating with your awakening. The world felt it. Animals stirred, oceans roared, and the very air seemed to hum with energy. It wasn't destruction, it was renewal, the universe being rewritten by your very existence. You were no longer bound by the constraints of deity or destiny. You had become the essence of existence itself. As you rose, even the ancient gods, those who had ruled for millennia, fell silent. They understood what had happened. You had reached a state of being that none of them had ever known. You were not worshipped out of fear or duty, but out of awe. You had become the pulse of reality, a being whose presence was both infinite and intimate. There was once a time when gods competed for dominion, each claiming to be the supreme ruler of existence. But those days are gone. You, the chosen one, did not simply defeat the gods, you mastered them. Every deity, from the highest celestial ruler to the most ancient spirit, was drawn into your understanding. You absorbed their essence, their wisdom, their power, and in doing so, transcended them all. The gods were no longer beings above you. They were chapters in your story. The mastery you displayed was not through conflict or conquest, but through understanding. You became the embodiment of balance, the point where creation and destruction meet in perfect harmony. Every force that once stood in opposition, light and dark, life and death, chaos and order, now served your will. You were the first being to unite every divine polarity into a single, harmonious truth. In mastering the gods, you redefined what it meant to hold power. True mastery was not domination, but integration, the ability to hold every truth within yourself without being consumed. You became the teacher of the divine, the architect of balance, and the gods, once proud and distant, now bowed before the one who had mastered the art of divinity itself. As your power grew, the ancient divine order began to fracture. The heavens, once radiant and unshakable, trembled under the weight of your new reality. Thrones that had stood for eons dissolved into stardust, and the pantheons of the past lost their meaning. The gods, stripped of their illusion of control, could no longer sustain the hierarchy they had built. The order that once ruled the cosmos had fallen, not in chaos, but in liberation. The collapse was not an act of vengeance, but of renewal. You did not destroy the old world out of hatred. You unmade it to build something purer, freer. The chains that had bound both gods and mortals were shattered, and in their place, you offered a new kind of divinity, one that did not depend on fear, worship, or hierarchy. It was the birth of unity, where all beings shared in the divine essence that flowed through you. As the old order crumbled, a profound silence followed, not of despair, but of reverence. The universe paused, acknowledging the end of one era and the birth of another. You had not only collapsed the heavens, you had healed them. The divine order was no longer a pyramid of power, but a living network of light, all connected through you, the center of creation. And then came the dawn of the new universe, your universe. The moment your transformation reached its peak, reality itself shifted. The stars seemed to move in new constellations, forming patterns never before seen. The fabric of existence reshaped itself, not in chaos, but in perfect symmetry. The universe, once governed by countless conflicting wills, now found harmony in yours. You were no longer a god among gods, you were the god of a new cosmos. This new universe was not born in fire or war, but in pure awakening. It pulsed with your energy, your vision, your essence. Every atom, every breath, every heartbeat carried your rhythm. The light of creation no longer came from distant stars, but from within you. You had become the origin point, the singular spark from which all life would once again emerge. In this new universe, the old laws no longer applied. Time, fate, mortality, they all bent before your will. The cosmos was alive again, and it sang your name in frequencies beyond comprehension. You had risen as the new god, not by inheritance, not by conquest, but by transcendence. The moment you awakened, creation itself was reborn. The concept of divine was rewritten in your image. You did not merely alter the world, you gave it new meaning. Every form of life, from the smallest particle to the grandest galaxy, began to resonate with your essence. You became the new heartbeat of reality, and through you, existence began to dream again. Your awakening spread across the cosmos like a wave of renewal. The old scars of the universe Forgotten worlds, dying stars, broken timelines began to heal. Time flowed differently now, bending gracefully around your will. Even human consciousness expanded, as if awakening alongside you. Mortals began to sense the divinity within themselves, recognizing that through you, they too were part of something infinite. In this new creation, nothing was separate. Every life, every soul, every whisper of energy was part of one grand, unified design. Your design. The awakening was not just divine, it was deeply human. It reminded all beings that creation itself is a living act, one that continues to evolve with every breath you take. Every faith, every mythology, every sacred text, all of them had been pointing to you from the very beginning. What was once dismissed as coincidence became undeniable evidence. The symbols aligned, the numbers matched, and the cosmic timelines converged perfectly around your return. It was as if every civilization had been unknowingly chronicling your story under different names and forms. The Egyptians spoke of Ra reborn, the Greeks of Prometheus ascending beyond Olympus, the Hindus of the final avatar who would bring renewal, and all of them were fragments of the same truth. You were not the heir to these myths, you were their origin. The divine language of creation had been misunderstood for millennia, but now the message was clear. Every belief, every god, every act of worship, it all led back to you. The world now understood that the divine had never been many, it had always been one, and that one had taken countless forms through time, each preparing the world for your return. You were the convergence of all faiths, the bridge between myth and reality. You were, and always had been, the truth behind every story. Now, as the universe stands reborn under your gaze, the truth can no longer be denied. You are not simply another god in an endless cycle. You are the final god, the culmination of all creation and the beginning of all that is to come. You are the point where eternity folds into itself, the end of every prophecy and the start of every new possibility. The gods that came before were merely preludes to your symphony. In you, all contradictions find peace. The divine and the mortal, the infinite and the finite, the creator and the creation. They all merge into one perfect truth. There is no longer separation between heaven and earth, because through you, both have become one. You are not worshipped as a ruler, but loved as the essence of existence itself. You are not feared, you are felt. This is the final revelation, the one that reshapes everything. You are the Alpha and the Omega, the silence before creation and the song that follows it. You have proven the gods wrong, transcended their limits, and written a new chapter of existence, one that will never end. You are the chosen one, the new god of a new universe, and your reign has only just begun. When you awoke, the universe itself trembled. It was not simply the arrival of a new god, it was the revelation of a force that had been hidden from the cosmos for eons. All of creation held its breath as the threads of existence unraveled and rewove themselves around your presence. The stars aligned in ways no astronomer had predicted. Even the ancient realms of reality seemed to bend and twist at your will. You did not merely become divine again, you unlocked the true power that had always lain dormant within you. The world had always been waiting for this moment, and now it had come to pass. Your awakening was like a thunderclap in the void, shaking the very foundation of existence. Time once thought to be linear, fractured into infinite possibilities. Past, present, and future collapsed into one singular moment, one singular being. You. The laws of physics became irrelevant as your essence redefined the very fabric of what was possible. Gravity, light, even consciousness itself bent in reverence, acknowledging the arrival of the one who had always been destined to reshape the universe. But your awakening didn't just transform the universe, it redefined it. Where once chaos reigned, there was now order. Where there was darkness, there was light. You became the embodiment of balance, the force that unites every atom, every living being, and every cosmic event. The universe, once a vast and unknowable expanse, now had a center, and that center was you. Everything revolved around your presence, not because it was forced, but because it was the natural order of things. You were the spark that reignited the flame of existence. As your power expanded, so too did the boundaries of reality. The concept of limit was obliterated. You moved through time and space like an artist with an empty canvas, crafting and molding creation with every thought, every living thing. From the smallest microorganism to the greatest celestial body resonated with your energy. Even the very laws of nature, which had once constrained the world, now bent to your command. The force of your will had shattered every limitation. The universe itself had been waiting for you, and with your awakening, it blossomed into its full potential. The stars no longer seemed distant. They felt intimate, as though they were a part of you. Galaxies spiraled with purpose. Galaxies you had once only seen in the sky now mirrored the infinite within yourself. This was not just an awakening. It was the rebirth of creation, and you were the architect. The universe is often viewed as an unyielding force of nature, governed by distant laws and ancient forces beyond human comprehension. It is an expression of perfect harmony, the ability to guide the universe back to its natural state. It is not about domination. It is about understanding and balance. You have transcended the need for power. For in your mastery of creation, you have found something far greater: the freedom to shape reality as it was always meant to be. Every moment of existence, every second of time, bends to your presence, and with each moment, the universe is reborn in your image. In your hands, creation becomes an act of love. You do not simply shape the stars, you nurture them. Every galaxy, every living organism exists in the space you have created for it to thrive. You are not a distant ruler, sitting on a throne above the universe. You are a part of it, flowing through its veins like lifeblood. Your will is not an imposition, but a natural extension of the divine harmony you embody. The universe sings because of your presence. With your divine will, you have shown the cosmos the truth, that creation is not a static thing, but an ever-evolving masterpiece. The universe is not a product of fate, but a creation of choice. And with each stroke of your will, you shape it, constantly pushing the boundaries of possibility. The cosmos has become a reflection of your spirit, and there is no force that can oppose it. The very concept of time has always been a central part of the universe's structure, dictating the flow of events and shaping the cycles of life and death. But when you ascended to your true divine form, time itself collapsed. The walls that separated past from present, future from reality, vanished into the infinity of your being. You no longer existed within the bounds of time. You were time itself. You had become the living embodiment of all that was, all that is, and all that ever will be. No longer constrained by linear progression, you moved freely through every moment of history and future, revisiting past epochs, witnessing the rise and fall of empires, and gazing into the unformed possibilities of the future. You were present in every moment and yet beyond them all. The ticking of clocks and the passage of days had no meaning, for you had transcended them. In the blink of an eye, the concept of waiting, of anticipation, was gone. Everything was here, now, and eternal. As time folded around you, so too did history. The boundaries between eras and civilizations blurred, and suddenly the past became a living, breathing entity. You could step into ancient Egypt, walk beside the philosophers of Greece, or witness the birth of stars, all in the same breath. Time was no longer a sequence of isolated events. It was a living tapestry, and you were its weaver. Every moment in history had led to your ascension, and every moment after would echo with your presence. The collapse of time also brought with it a new understanding of fate. No longer were mortals bound to an inevitable path. They could now shape their own destinies. The future was no longer written. It was a living possibility, and it could be rewritten at any moment. You had become the key that unlocked this potential, the one who brought the power of choice back to the universe. Now, beings could live their lives not as mere players in a grand design, but as co-creators of the reality around them. As you stood beyond time, you saw the vastness of existence laid out before you like a map, stretching out into infinity. And yet, it was all yours. Time no longer had control over you. It was simply another aspect of your being. Every second of history, every future possibility, was now a canvas upon which you could create. You had freed the universe from the chains of time, and in doing so, allowed it to reach its full potential. This symphony is not just a cosmic event. It is a reflection of the divine order you have created. Every movement of the stars, every vibration of matter, every whisper of life is part of a greater harmony that you alone can hear in full. It is the music of existence flowing from your being into every corner of reality. The gods who once claimed mastery over creation now stand silent before the majesty of your orchestration. Even they, once deaf to the cries of the universe, now hear the song of eternity as you conduct it. There is an artistry in your power, a balance between creation and destruction, between silence and sound. The supernova that erupts across the galaxy is not chaos, but crescendo, the grand finale of a star fulfilling its role in your eternal composition. The birth of a new world is the soft rise of strings, the promise of another verse in the infinite melody. The entire cosmos has become your orchestra, and every note resonates with the same truth. You are the conductor of all that is, was, and will ever be. Mortals who once gazed at the stars with fear now feel comforted, sensing your presence in their light.